A while back, Funky at Scale Street Garage and Brian, Diecast Outcast, and myself were talking about doing a bone shaker build. And we decided to do it when we dragged Christian from 1st and 64th Customs into it, kicking and screaming all the way. and basically we decided do something with the bone shaker. Kind of sort of bone shaker-ish. That's basically the guidelines. Also a little while back, Brandon Bays of Rogue Syndicate Parts built a variation of the bone shaker using some parts that they sell. He called it the Scarab. It cut the top off a bone shaker and made some other modifications. And one of the parts to it was what they call a Z-Drop Pro kit that changes the back end on it. So I was going to build the Scarab, but then, so I ordered the parts from him. I bought the parts, and I also bought some wheels and tires from him. And they arrived. I was planning on doing a Scarab, and then because there's another part to this, not this specific build, but you'll see later, I needed to keep the top of the bone shaker as well, so there'd be some consistency. I wasn't going to cut the top off. So anyhow, I decided to basically keep the front end of the bone shaker, skull and all. I know there are some people who hate the skull. There's some people who love the skull. Personally, I don't find it terribly unappealing. I like it with the skull up there, even though it's a little odd. But I think it makes it in a lot of ways. So I decided to use the Z-Drop kit and their wheels and tires on this particular build. So there you see I had chopped the back end off. And the casting for the bone shaker is just a rough casting. I haven't had one yet that's clean, that really doesn't need a lot of cleanup to it. Not that it's a bad thing, because a lot of the builds, it has a certain look to it. So I decided, because the Z-Drop kit, I'm just cutting that whole back end, the chrome insert and the base, straight down at the back. And I used that little X-Acto saw to do it. And as much as I may swear by a jeweler saw for that type of cut, you can't beat that X-Acto saw. It's perfect for that kind of thing. And I've had problems where I try and use the jeweler saw and I end up melting the plastic. I guess I'm going too fast. So at this point, I'm attaching, the Z-Drop kit is two pieces. It's the rear frame and the rear differential, and then they do include a drive shaft piece. But here I'm attaching the rear frame, and I don't know why. I was nervous about doing it. You've seen me butcher vehicles before and not think twice. But I think because I had purchased these parts and they were made by somebody else, and I didn't want to botch it up, and they were the only ones I had. So I thought, man, I got to get this right. So this particular bone shaker that I used had a plastic base, which was perfect for this. So one of the things I end up doing on this, and you'll notice it, I test fit the hell out of this thing as I'm doing it. I had to keep making sure the things were working just right, and I wasn't hitting any rubbing issues, any height issues. Here again, I just threw pins through the various pieces to make sure that the wheels and tires, that I was going to have ground clearance on this. I wasn't making anything permanent at this point other than having the rear attached. But I just wanted to make sure, is this going to work, without altering the pipes, without making some other modifications. One of the things I did is I cut the tank off the back of the regular bone shaker interior and attached it to this little piece. And on the Facebook forum, I had mentioned doing this, and Riley Wells had a really good idea of notching that tank and just running the drive shaft through it. And so that's what I ended up doing. I probably should have stripped the chrome off that insert first, but hey. So I just used super glue, attached it on there. I was really happy with the results because it's like, hey, this thing's going to need a tank back here. It's going to need something. So test fitting it again, I had clearance for the Z-drop frame, and it fit through that back notch in the opening. So then I decided to strip the chrome. Used the Vallejo liquid mask. I wanted the chrome. I kept the chrome to a degree. And so this is before I put it in the super clean and strip everything that's not masked off. And the mask works pretty well. But I wanted this thing to be a cross in a way between a rat rod and just a nice looking, vehicle. I didn't want it to be shiny. I wanted it to look like something that had a rough life, but wasn't all flat out beat to hell like a rat rod necessarily either, which influenced the colors, which influenced a lot of things on it, influenced the chrome, what I ended up doing to the chrome. Now, like I mentioned, the Z-drop kit is two pieces. They're two apparently resin cast pieces, resin printed pieces apparently. And so what I did is I used the pins to go through the holes that hold the two pieces together. I used super glue to attach those two pieces. And then I had cut off just old axles, basically, for lack of a better term, almost like a rivet. I cut the ends off because I wanted to have the bolts in effect that are holding those pieces together. And then I super glued those into the holes. I didn't put the pins through, super glue them, and then try and cut the pins, because that would have been a bear, at least for me, to get in there and cut them. And no matter what, I don't think I would have been able to cut them flush enough. So I thought this was a better approach. And it worked great. I mean, I'll admit it's a pain in the butt to try and get those little tiny pins in there. And, it's a fiddly little thing to do. You'll notice I did it by hand that time. I didn't try using the tweezers. I got smart. It was like after doing the first two with the tweezers and dropping those stupid little things over and over, I'll just use my hands, stick them in there, and then I super glue them into place. So it kept working pretty well. And so at this point, that gas tank that I had moved to the back, remember I mentioned filing a notch in it? Well, that's where I'm filing the notch for the drive shaft. And I think I did mention in the kit, they do give you the drive shaft. So I just notched that tank, I was going to attach the drive shaft to the tank, just use it as a mounting point. But it would have looked kind of goofy. It was a great idea that Riley had, having the tank just hug the drive shaft. And what I ended up doing, you attach the drive shaft. There's a hole in the rear diff. And so what I used another pin. I cut it down to size and just jammed that through the rod. It's almost like an axle rod that they give you for the drive shaft. Put a pin through it and super glued all that into place. This project may not have used any JB Weld or any gauzy, but I made up for it with crazy glue or super glue. Now there's the color I ended up on. It's Krylon Bahama Sea, and it was a good color. It was gloss, and so I sprayed a matte finish over it because, again, I didn't want it to be super shiny. And I also used, these are Rogue Syndicate wheels and tires. Love these wheels and tires. I mean, these tires are fantastic. The size on them is perfect on the back of the Bone Shaker. Shot those with gray paint. Sorry. And then you just pop them together. But yeah, the sizing on these tires, and there I'm just kind of eyeballing it again to see if I'm going to be happy with it. And if you look close, you can see the pin I used through the drive shaft there to hold it in place. What I ended up using for axles on here, I just, Lord knows when you do these things, you end up with a lot of axles. So those are from jewelry. They're little crimp ends. And I've never been able to crimp ends onto an axle successfully, but I have been able to super glue them successfully. So that's what I did on here, is I basically just fit, one end has the regular end of the axle on it. Look at the detail on that. I love that. Sorry, I was distracted. And then I super glued the little that little crimp on the end, and it worked great. Went over the back originally with Citadel lead belcher, and then with Nuln Oil to give it a little texture to it, give it a little detail. Really brings out the detail. And then here I'm doing it on the front. Now on the front, I had the luxury of that axle just popping in the original bone shaker mounting spot. So instead of trying to glue it in place, which was a little more difficult on the back end, I slipped that little crimp onto the axle already, then hit the tip with super glue, and then slid that little crimp down, and then hit it again with a little super glue to hold it in place. And honestly, this worked perfectly. I mean, the wheels rolled great. That little crimp thing, it's there. It's not going to go anywhere. You're going to have a hell of a time pulling it off. Whenever I've tried to crimp them, basically I just end up snapping them. I don't know if I'm just doing them too hard. I haven't been able to hit that sweet spot where I crimp them and they stay. I either crimp them and they don't stay, or I crimp them and they snap in half. So the CA glue works for me. So at this point, I've got the wheels on, and it's time for more Nuln Oil. Again, I wanted the wheels to look, a little dirty. Again, I'm not going super ratty, just a wee bit rat. Sometimes, maybe you can never have too much rat, but on this one, I wasn't going too rat. So there's the pieces. I tried to put a lot of detail on this. You can kind of see what I was going for with the chrome. There's the back tank. I wanted chrome yet not chrome. I wanted it to be silvery, but not super shiny. I wanted it to be weathered chrome. Really happy with the blue color. I mean, that's truly just rattle. These are all rattle can paints. That's just rattle can Krylon that, Lord knows, I've had that thing for months. I don't know why. Originally, when I got it, I was thinking I was going to shoot an import car with it. And then I just haven't been doing really any import cars. And so I just never got around to it. So I thought on this one, that'd be a good look. Now, you do lose with the Z-drop back end, you do lose that rear mounting post. You chop that sucker off with with removing the back. Got to say, the bone shaker, just cutting the bed off the bone shaker, I thought improved the looks of it 100%. So there you basically have it. It's I probably should have glued the tires onto the wheels. That was one thing I noticed, was that they're a little slippery on there. And so probably just hitting them with, even PVA glue, just a little something to hold them in place a little better. So here's a close-up look of it. This isn't the official rollout yet. This is just giving you a little bit of a look at it. See the red on the engine up there? You see the roof line on the bone shaker. There's a reason I'm pointing that out. I'll get it here in a second. So here's where we started. I'd really like to thank Funky, Brian, and Christian for letting me participate in this build with them. And let's roll that thing out here. Let's get a good look at it. See, there it is. Oh, what's that? Oh, the Bone Shaker-ish K7? That's a different video. But that's why I kept the roof line. That's why some of the details on this have a certain look. Anyhow, check this thing out. I'm really happy with the Z-drop kit and those wheels and tires. I will definitely be ordering at least one more of those Z-drop kits. That I don't know, like I said, it intimidated me a little bit when I went to do it, but couldn't have been easier. Went on very easily, worked out great, and I love the look. I hope you like it too. I'm going to put a link to their website down below, and you can check out what they have. Hopefully you like this build. If you do, please give it a thumbs up. And if you subscribe to the channel, thank you very much for putting up with me in these videos. And if you enjoyed this and you don't subscribe yet, please subscribe. Why not? You got nothing to lose. Anyhow, I hear sirens in the background. I don't know if you can hear that, but... Anyhow, thanks for watching. Thanks to the other guys. Be sure and check out their builds too. I will put links to each of their channels down below in the description as well. You couldn't find a better group of guys. They really are a pleasure to build with, a pleasure to talk to. They're just three really good guys. I do appreciate all they do. So thanks again for watching. Catch you in the next one. Take care. Stay safe out there.